2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hi, thank you for coming to this abstract that's being recorded. My name is Mina Johnson-Glenberg, and I lead the Embodied Gains Lab at the Department of Psychology at Arizona State University. Our paper is Embodied Agentic STEM Education, the effects of 3D VR compared to 2D PC learning. There's actually a dearth of rigorous VR studies out there that look at learning outcomes. And so there was a systematic analysis done by Radiante recently that uncovered several gaps. And one is that most of these studies have been focused on usability and not learning outcomes. So we need more rigorous randomized control trials that look at learning outcomes for virtual reality. There have been mixed results to date in learning in PC versus VR. So I'll talk about a recent one that favored VR, and I'm just talking about those that have come out since 2016 for more popular use. A spatial memory study done by Krokos et al., and that makes sense that you would see spatial memory effects in VR. Several, though, have reported equal effects for learning, and this gets the total title for Best Title Award, Ready Learner 1. And that was a nice design, a three-way design with a hands-on condition, PC, and then a VR condition with the Oculus Rift. And what Madden et al. Found in their moon phase learning study was that there were no significant differences at post-test between those three conditions, nor did they see any at 4-month follow-up. Civitas, in preparation, found no learning differences between the daydream condition, VR HMD, versus the PC condition on learning how to use a lab content that was created by Labster. Labster also was the content used in this Mokransky study done in 2017, where they showed less learning in the VR condition. So that was an interesting counterbalance design, and there were no differences in learning, but there were no differences in transfer gains between the two groups. They also reported higher cognitive load in the group that had been in the VR headset the second time around. So if they started in PC and then were put into VR, they showed greater cognitive load by EEG measurements. And I actually would have no problem believing that, because this really suggests fatigue effects over time in VR. And I know that I certainly feel those if I'm in a Go headset for more than 20 minutes, which does not have an interpupillary distance for females. So Mokransky et al., they admit they have interface issues. They say the specific advantages of immersive VR were not optimized in their study. The content was designed for flat screen and then ported into VR. They used an unintuitive controller, so it wasn't a handheld controller, it was the old school tracking pad that's on the side of the Samsung Gear VR. So that's not a very embodied interface or naturalistic. So we should be creating VR content for learning for where it's best suited, right? And Balancen's group would say that VR is best suited for things that are impossible, very expensive, dangerous, or counterproductive to do, like burning down a whole forest to show the effects of deforestation. And to those I add, we should be building content that maximize the two profound affordances of VR. And so for me, those two affordances are presence. So let's enhance emotions and empathy, and being agentic in the third dimension. And so this is what our study focuses on: being agentic, using your body, using gesture in something that has 3 dimensions. And we should also be designing for content that is 3-dimensional by its nature, that's integral to the phenomena being learned, like electromagnetic waves or protein folding. Those are good STEM examples of highly spatial content. We should encourage users to manipulate that content once they're in that immersive space. Manipulation and agency imply more embodiment. More sensory motor neurons are used when you manipulate, and there's a large body of research that shows how gestures can help offload cognition. We wanted to design a study that would take advantage of gesture in VR and allow the participants to be agentic and moving, whether using the VR hand controller or if they're in the PC condition using the mouse. So this is a 2x2x2 randomized control study that I'm reporting on. The first factor was platform, PC versus VR. The second factor was embodiment, low versus high. And we have pretest and immediate post-test that I'll talk about today. We have multiple DVs, but the 2 DVs I'll mention today, dependent variables, are content knowledge learning gains, and the efficacy of the embedded assessment that we put within the game, which lasted anywhere from 9 to 12 minutes, depending on the participant's reading speed. The game is called Catch a Mimic. It's available if you'd like to get it at certain places. I'll tell you at the end of the talk. And here's just a table of the 2x2. Lower immersivity called PC, high immersivity is called VR. Active embodiment, when it's low, it means you're watching a playback of capturing the butterflies in the headset or on a PC. When you're in the high embodiment condition, you're actually using the mouse to capture the butterflies, or you're using a hand controller. So in-game capture, I think I'll show you what that looks like, and it's a little bit clunky to get out of this and go to the movie. So here we have some content that we captured in the headset of what the net looks like when you're moving it with your avatar hand. So all you can see is white avatar hand, and your collision with the butterfly gives you feedback. So negative 50 points with a red skull if you captured a poisonous butterfly, positive 50 points if you capture a non-poisonous butterfly. We have a clock on the right here in red that's counting down starting at 60 seconds. So every level, there are 6 levels, lasts for 60 seconds. So you're getting immediate feedback while in play and also some summative feedback at the end. So in the game, you're acting like a zookeeper trying to capture non-poisonous butterflies and feed them to your birds. You must deduce which butterflies are non-poisonous during these levels of play. And so over here, you can see the bad ones are never changing over the level of play, while the good ones become, you know, in level 1, it's easy to spot because there's more yellow, but by level 3, it's harder to spot that difference. We also wanted to combat misconceptions, and so we showed cut screens between each level where we reiterated this information that many generations have passed, because sometimes people believe that a species can change in one generation. I have to say that population dynamics are actually difficult for people to understand, because even in the even with using these adult learners in the Psych 101 subject pool, no one got 100% on the test. The max score was 30, and the max that anyone got of our participant pool was 28. And let me redefine embodiment once again. If you're low embodied, all users could navigate forward with either the Go hand controller or with a mouse, and all could fill the interactive bar charts with an answer, but they could not, they did not have agency over swinging the butterfly net. So the interactive bar chart looks like this, where you would grab the blue handle and you would move it up to from low to medium to high. Move the handles on the bars to show your best guess. What are the chances of survival for each butterfly species? This was asked 2 times during gameplay. So everyone could do that, but not everyone could swing the net. Here's the results. 214 participants from the Psych 101 subject pool were recruited. They had very little experience with an HMD before. Randomly assigned to group. All groups were matched at pretest, and overall participants made significant gains in learning. So everyone's learning. Yay, we designed a good game. A repeated measures GML showed a main effect for embodiment, but no effect for platform. Didn't matter if you were in PC or VR. But there's something interesting going on here with this time by platform by embodiment interaction. So let's unpack that a little bit. This is showing us that the greatest gains in learning were made by the green line, which is the high VR group, which is what we would have predicted. And the least amount of learning was shown by this black line here, the low embodied VR group. So that's what's driving the significance in their interaction. And we did a priori pairwise comparisons that showed that indeed the low VR group is learning significantly less than all 3 of the other groups. Low embodied PC, it's learning less than high embodied PC, and certainly learning less than high embodied VR. So why would that be, that the low embodied VR group would learn so much less? I'm pausing here to let you think a little bit. And I'm annoyed that I can't make this go back to full screen without perhaps making a big boo-boo. This leads us to a design guideline that we want to share with you. Learners are accustomed to watching playback videos on PC monitors, but when they're in novel VR situations, they may come with expectations about agency and control. So when VR learners are not allowed to be agentic and control what's going on, that might be infelicitous for learning. So as you design your content, try to not embed traditional non-interactive videos into VR. It doesn't seem to affect those in learning on a PC condition, but if you're in a VR headset, it does affect you. Note also that the players who were in the low embodied PC condition always kept their hands on the mouse throughout the game. So it's not like we can say just because they were holding a Go hand controller, they expected agency. It's something that's, I just think, been learned that we're used to watching a video on the PC and keeping our hand on the mouse and not being interactive with it. I'm just going to leave you with a teaser about the embedded embodied assessment with the bar chart because I'm running out of time here. And I want you to come to my real talk. It was significantly predictive of post-test performance during its first exposure, but not at the second exposure when they saw it again after level 5. So we have theories about why that might be. The take-home message is that our randomized control study found a main effect for embodiment. The more active you were, the more you learned. But there was not a main effect for platform learning, so that we cannot always simply say VR is better for learning than PC, right? However, there was an interaction of embodiment by platform that revealed that the low embodied group learned significantly less. Thus, it's important to keep players or learners active when they're in a VR condition, or give them control at least. The low embodied VR players may have expected to have more agency and control playing the educational game compared to the mainly observational mode. And when they're in observational mode only, that may truncate their learning. Many thanks to my amazing lab for making this possible. The Catching Mimic game can be found in 2D WebGL at this website, the Embodied Games website. So that's free, just click on it, play it. And it's also free in the Oculus Store for the Go and for the Oculus Rift in 4 different languages. Contact me anytime you want at mina.johnson@asu.edu. And thank you so much for listening to my talk. And I'm supposed to count to 7.